Hello, friends. Pastor Bill Walden here with Build Up the Church. This is a devotional word for May 22nd, 2024, and this is out of the Gospel of John, chapter 9. At the beginning of John chapter 9, we see Jesus healing a man who had been born blind. He did it on the Sabbath day, which caused the continuing opposition from the religious rulers of Israel to come against Jesus once again. They objected that he healed this man on the Sabbath day. They felt like nothing should happen on the Sabbath day at all, not even the well-being and the healing of a man who had been blind his entire life. And so there was a lot of argument going on between the religious rulers, the man who had been healed. His parents were interrogated. The religious rulers are seeking to have them say something about Jesus that will discredit Jesus. And as the conversation goes and continues between the religious rulers and the man who was healed of blindness, we see the man who was formerly blind gaining strength and gaining composure and gaining assurance in his mind and heart about the goodness of Jesus Christ. And he ends up meeting him and worshiping him. The religious rulers finally had enough of this man and they excommunicated him from temple worship, from the synagogue, so he was an outcast now spiritually. It's interesting. We would say the church kicked him out, but God welcomed him in, which is sadly the case oftentimes. We pick up the story here in John chapter 9, verse 35. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, he said to him, "Do you believe in the Son of God?" And he answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him?" And Jesus said to him, "You have both seen him, and it is he who is talking with you now." Then he said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. So this man was converted to become a follower of Jesus Christ. When he was healed, Jesus wasn't there at the place where he was healed, and so this is the first time that he is meeting Jesus, actually. Verse 39, here's kind of our key points for this devotional message. And Jesus said, "For judgment I have come into the world, that those who do not see may see, and that those who see may be made blind." Verse 40, then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, "Are we blind also?" They understood that Jesus was speaking about them. And Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say, 'We see,' therefore your sin remains." So Jesus is using the idea of blindness metaphorically. He had physically healed a man who had been born blind. He gave sight to one who was formerly blind, physically speaking. As this man met Jesus, now he received spiritual sight. He who was admittedly physically blind before and could not deny it was made to be able to see physically. Spiritually speaking, this same man was spiritually blind before, but now he was made to see. The Pharisees were the ones who claimed to be able to see spiritually, and Jesus said, "I've come into the world to show those who admit that they are spiritually blind, to show them that they can receive spiritual sight, and also for those who say they can spiritually see and don't think they need any help, to declare that they are actually blind." Let me read verse 41 again. Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. If you would admit that you have spiritual blindness, you wouldn't be guilty. But since you admit that you have spiritual sight, now you're guilty, because you say that you can see the truth about God, but you can't see God standing in front of you." Jesus said at the last part of verse 41, "Therefore your sin remains." The biggest thing that man needs is spiritual vision, spiritual sight, to understand the truth about God, to understand the truth about mankind, to understand the truth about heaven and hell, to understand the truth about freedom and bondage, to understand the truth about what true love is, to understand the reasons and the design that God gave for mankind to live. And so those who say, I don't need any help, they don't know that they're admitting that they're blind. Jesus said the one who says, I don't need any help is actually blind. Conversely, the one who says, I need some help, that's the one who receives the spiritual sight. Jesus said, if you want to find your life, you need to lose it. And so those who say they have already found their lives see no need or reason to say, I surrender. I don't see. I don't understand. I do need help. I am confused. Those who say they see will often make mistakes and defend their behavior and just go through life independently of God, saying, I don't need God. But those who say, I'm blind, Jesus said, those are the ones that will receive spiritual sight and be able to see. So I encourage you, if you've never admitted to your own heart and to God that you are spiritually blind, it doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. Spiritual blindness has nothing to do with intelligence or talent or abilities, anything like that. Spiritual blindness is all about mankind thinking he's got it all figured out, when in reality he doesn't. And when we confess that, and when we admit that, and when we surrender to Jesus, then we receive spiritual understanding and we find eternal life in him. So, some things for you to think about. Thanks for listening.